Let's get this sports podcast party started, all right?
The J Reels Podcast.
Why don't you wait until July 1st to make an announcement? What a disgrace. He can rack up all these numbers in October, November, and December, but what really counts is let me see this in January.
The sports rebel without a pause, delivering fast-paced, jam-packed sports talk like no other.
Listen, I gotta call it as I see it. He is not a good player. I'm sick and tired of having to deal with the disappointment of this franchise. When does it stop? And yes, another winter that I can sleep in peace. Coming correct, direct, and in full effect. Let's get it.
This is the J Reels Podcast. Welcome aboard.
What is happening, my good people? Greetings. How are you? How's it going? How's everybody doing out there? What is the latest and greatest? Hope everybody's doing well, feeling fantastic, in excellent spirits as we counted down to Labor Day, just 2 weeks from today. That's right. Summer is slowly but surely starting to dissipate, but that's all right because the sports world is really starting to pick up. And trust me, you're going to want to fasten your seatbelts because I have a lot to get off my chest today as this is the J Reels Podcast with J Reels. For my first timers, welcome aboard. And for those who've been banging with me going back to the very beginning, somewhere in the middle, even as early as this past Thursday, I welcome you guys and gals back. And yes, there is a lot to unpack. And we would think that, wait a minute, J Reels, other than baseball, yeah, there's some NFL. What else can you really discuss? Well, you're going to have to hang on to your hat, people, because again, for whatever the reason, over the last 24 hours, a lot have come down the pike, including some news today regarding a starting quarterback in Cleveland, which has been named, which I definitely want to talk about, but I'm going to pause that for a little bit. Let's get right to the baseball because there is quite a few things that I want to get to there. And trust me, you're going to wait till later on. I got a lot. Oh, geez. I cannot wait for this. Chopping at the bit for this one. Bio greetings. J-Rod in the room already starting to populate, which I appreciate on a day in, day out basis. For those listening on Apple or Spotify, the audio files. Yes, this is live on YouTube right now. And these are the people that, of course, I converse with more so at the end of this podcast. But anyway, let's get right to it. True story. So sometime in the middle of the night, I was having this dream. Well, really, it was a nightmare because I was awakened by a throng of fans cheering, howling, hooting, whatever you want to call it, to where the Yankees, that's right, the New York Yankees won the World Series. But it's weird because as I was awakened from this, it was cold outside. It was more like January 1st than maybe November 1st after a World Series. And it was bizarre because all I saw were Yankee fans celebrating another World Series. And I said to myself, wait a second, this can't be happening. Not only the Yankees winning a World Series, but from the standpoint of everybody has winter coats on, people's breath, you can see the smoke coming out. And I'm thinking to myself, am I in the Twilight Zone? The old TV show? Well, I bring all this up because there are two teams right now in Major League Baseball that you would have to pay attention to here on out. And it's no shock or no surprise. And maybe they're starting to peak at the right time, which still, they're a month away. You'd rather see these two teams play this way on September 24th, let alone August 24th. But I bring up the Yankees for starters. I'll get to the other team in a moment. Because here's a team that, as we all know, decimated by injury, starting rotation in tatters. They can't hit a lick, although they got 8 runs against the Blue Jays yesterday in another series win. And mind you, that is if I count them up, they've only lost 3 series since the All-Star break and actually tied one in Chicago against the White Sox where they split 4 games. But I have to say, the team has played well. And even though they haven't been whole as far as their rotation goes, and they got Carlos Rodon back who pitched, I believe he pitched yesterday. And he's a guy, as you know, I don't trust him as far as I could throw him. But I have to say, with this Yankee team that had Cody Bellinger come back yesterday, and now that there is a date as to when Aaron Judge will be returning, that against the Colorado Rockies, probably September 8th. I believe that's when the series begins. So you may see Aaron Judge back in the lineup for at least 3 weeks before the end of the regular season, which is a huge boon for this team. And even though Giancarlo Stanton, who strained a calf again, what else is new? And I love Stanton, but man, that guy can't stay healthy if his life depended on it. But with this Yankee team winning another series, and yes, do I trust them in big spots, especially come postseason when guys haven't really hit? That certainly remains to be seen. But I have to give it up. They're now 3 games in the AL East behind the Tampa Bay Rays. And the Rays have been scuffling here a little bit. They've lost series in their own right. And they now go to Detroit, I believe, which they're also, no offense, J-Rod. The Tigers have struggled. But for the Yankees, and with the horizon, when you see number 99 slowly but surely rising, and the 8th is what? It is 2 weeks from tomorrow. In fact, because the NFL season starts September the 9th. So 2 weeks from tomorrow, you may see Aaron Judge back in the lineup. And if the Yankees are going to make a push, especially over those final few weeks of the season, and in particular, that next to the last series of the regular season where they have 4 in their building against the Tampa Bay Rays, it couldn't come at a better time. And the Yankees could be a team that could overtake, and that would be huge because the Yankees do not want to go by route of the wild card. We saw what happened there last year. I talked about it earlier in the season or earlier in the summer. And I think if the Yankees have any shot, now mind you, the Rays, all they need to do is win one of those 4 games because if they do, they will win the season series, which, as we know, if they end up in a flat-footed tie, the tiebreaker goes to Tampa, as we saw last year when the Blue Jays and Yankees were tied, I believe 94 and 68, and because the Blue Jays had the tiebreaker, the Yankees had to play the wild card round against the Red Sox and then lost to the Blue Jays in the divisional series. And I'm sure they do not want to have to go through that again this come around or this year in 2026. So for the Yankees, they played well. I cannot stress how they've been able to stem the tide here. Whether it's guys out of the rotation, they have Ryan Weathers out, who I understand your 5th starter. But between Max Fried out and obviously with Rodon coming back, and we saw Rodon come in and out. We know Garrett Cole coming back in June after Tommy John. And this team has still been able to play well. I know George Lombard has given them a lift. Trent Grisham has actually been swinging a better bat. And it's weird because a lot of people have come out to say, oh, wow, this is probably the best job that Aaron Boone has done as a Yankee manager. I've heard this year after year after year. And to me, we know where Aaron Boone's going to get graded on, October. So I don't care what he does now. I don't care how he's been able to keep this team above water. I don't care what he said, what he's done. We know Aaron Boone, when the money is on the line, he always finds a way to screw it up. And I don't want to hear. And if my guy Ray is on right now, who's a big Yankee fan, I'm sure he'd say the same thing. Because Aaron Boone is a guy that is going to coddle his players. He's all about not holding themselves accountable. A guy who boots a ball 5 times a game or is another base running blunder or whatever. No, he's not going to say anything. And therefore, he's a guy that is not going to be one that you're going to fully trust come October in my eyes. And obviously, there's going to be a big October, whether he's a division leader or a wild card. And J-Rod, I see a question. I'm going to get to that. We're going to talk about that in a little while. WNBA, Enes Kanter. I mean, seriously? But for this Yankee team, they're peaking. And I'm sure it's going to even get better once you get past August and into September. And once Aaron Judge comes back. And, of course, everybody's going to be holding their collective breaths to know that once he takes a few swings out of the box, if he's going to be whole, if he's going to be healthy. Because, obviously, if you're not going to have Aaron Judge come the start of the postseason, then who knows what your chance is going to be to not only advance, but even get to a World Series and win it. But I got to give them credit. They've done well. They've won series. That's all you can ever ask. And now they'll have the Houston Astros come to town, which I'll talk about the Astros momentarily. And actually, Houston's in New York the whole week because they'll play the Mets starting Friday. So they're going to start their series at Yankee Stadium tomorrow, play the 3 games, and then go to Citi Field for the weekend after they fired their GM, which, again, we'll unpack that in a little while. And yes, Waffle Iron, Aaron Boone was Carlos Mendoza's mentor. And and to think, Boone has been the manager of the Yankees for 9 years? All right, made it to one World Series, but has fallen short and way short of any expectation of this team finally getting the brass ring, including that year 2 years ago where game one he screwed that up royally, which was obviously a precursor of what was to come as the Dodgers dusted him off in 5 games. Yeah, J-Rod, he's also declaring himself. Yeah, I'm going to touch on that. And it'll be interesting to hear what you guys and gals are going to have to say about that, because that has been a certain lightning rod for controversy. Now, the other team we're going to look out for here are the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, I understand they're beating up bad teams, but yesterday was the clincher from a standpoint of they had won 8 in a row going into yesterday's game. They won the first 2 games against the Cardinals. This is on the heels of sweeping the Marlins in the midweek, and the Marlins bounced back, sweeping the Nationals. So, although the Phillies, they took care of them, and in the prior weekend, who they sweep? They had another sweep. It'll come to me. But here they were, 8 in a row. They were down 4-0 in the 9th inning, and what happened? They came back not only to score 6, but a walk-off by Kyle Schwarber to extend that winning streak to 9 in a row. And for the Phillies, who a lot of people thought, not going to say left for dead. We knew that they were going to make the postseason, even if they were 7, 8, 9 games back of the Braves. But don't look now, because the Braves had faltered. Now, they salvaged their series against the Brewers yesterday in the Little League game in Williamsport, where the Braves were able to at least stem the tide a little bit and not have to worry about this uprising there in Philadelphia. But when we look at the standings, now they're just 3 games behind them, and they have 7 games, I believe, starting Labor Day. Or maybe it's the weekend leading into Labor Day. I believe it's the weekend leading into Labor Day, and that's actually a wraparound series in Philadelphia. Friday through Sunday, so that is a week from this coming Friday, where they're going to play 4 games in Philadelphia, then they have the 3 games in a week, and then go to Atlanta for 3 there. So the Phillies have been on a rampage. 9 straight. Let me see who they won in that first start of the night. Oh, they swept the Twins. That's right, because they had the Netflix Field of Dreams game. They had the day off, then they won the 2 in Minnesota, swept the Marlins, and then now on the heels of a sweep here against the Cardinals. And for them, we all know what they're about. They have a potent lineup that has been unable to hit in October, as I've chronicled before. They have a rotation at the top. It's very good with Christopher Sanchez, as well as Zach Wheeler and Jesus Luzardo. They got a guy in the back of the bullpen that you like in Joan Duran. And they have the makings of a championship team. And right now, they're within striking distance of the NL East at the very top. And you know about the series that are going to take place there in about a week and a half. But now this is going to be interesting because they go on the West Coast and they're playing inferior teams. In fact, they start their West Coast trip in Seattle, who got routed again in another Bryce Miller start, to where they lost, 19-2? And that was on the heels of his start last Tuesday, where they lost 22-0. Not to put this all on Bryce Miller, but with the Mariners faltering, and then they go to Anaheim after that for 3 games, you kind of wonder whether or not that the Philly team will cool off here a little bit. Because anytime you have that type of win where you're down 4-0 in the 9th and you come back with a 6-1 9th, dramatic walk-off fashion, and then now have to fly to the West Coast. So it's not as if they're going to Cincinnati. It's not as if they're going south to, let's say, Tampa or to Miami. No, now they're going 3 time zones over. And a lot of people will think, oh, this is going to be a 10, 11, 12-game winning streak. Now watch, because of the time difference and even with the euphoria of that win, and I'm sure that 6-hour plane ride probably felt like 6 minutes, but how I see it is, watch the Phillies now take a step back and watch me jinx it by me coming out saying that, oh, they're riding high, 9 in a row, they're flying, they're nipping at the heels of the Atlanta Braves. Watch them lose 2 out of 3 in Seattle before we get to Thursday's podcast, and then go to Anaheim and probably do the same, or maybe struggle to win 2 out of 3. But those are 2 teams. Now, is it way too early to even think that they are headed in a collision course for the World Series? Way too early. There's no way I'm even going to think that. But these are 2 teams that I feel, with what we've seen throughout the whole regular season, whether we've talked about the Dodgers who were blue in the face, whether we talked about the Brewers who have been lights out, as we know, whether we've talked about Tampa, and you want to throw in a couple other teams, you want to throw in the Cubs for good measure. Yeah, we knew the Phillies are good. And yeah, we know the Yankees are probably going to be the favorite once we get to October because the American League is putrid. And I understand there's going to be some faction of people that think that the Rays could get to a World Series. But now with the Yankees being consistent and playing well, as I mentioned, they've only lost 3 series since the All-Star break. And with now the Phillies at 9 in a row, who knows? Could these two teams, again, not a collision course, but are these teams peaking a little bit too early? Or right now they're going to look to take off? I could see the Yankees maybe once we get to September and especially Judge coming back, that could be a scenario where they'll really take off because now they got their captain, they got their big bopper in the lineup, and it'll lengthen out the lineup to where other players will see good pitches. Obviously, time will tell, and we shall see once we get to that point. But I had to start off there because those are the two teams that have played well. Obviously, the Phillies are red hot, and the Yankees 3 back. It's funny how both teams, second in their respective divisions in the East, Yankees to Rays, Phillies to Braves, both 3 back and playing as well as anybody in Major League Baseball. So that's where I wanted to start. And then the Astros, as I talked about, they're coming to New York here for the week, and they fired their GM because the Astros right now are 65 and 66, tied with the Rangers there for first place in the AL West. And for Dana Brown, I mean, what could you say? Is it all his fault? I understand during the All-Star, or not the All-Star break, during the trade deadline, did they make a lot of moves? Did they do enough to try to secure themselves a decent spot there as they played well right up until and after the All-Star break to where we thought, wait a minute, now could the Astros gain some separation? As we see, that is not the case. And they got a guy in Yordan Alvarez who right now is a triple crown. And really, when you think about it, it's a double triple crown because not only does he lead in home runs, RBIs, and batting average, but he also leads in on-base percentage, slugging, and OPS. So here's a guy that is right now your landslide lockdown AL MVP winner. But the Astros haven't really done anything around him to fortify that lineup or that rotation to where they can get some breathing room. So Brown is out, and I believe they have the interim there. I know they have Jeff Bagwell, who's a senior advisor, and a couple other people on that staff, I'm sure is the interim for the remainder of the year. But we all know that the AL West is just a flat-out disaster. I mean, it's an abomination. There's no other way to put it. And even the Texas Rangers, we know about Seattle and how they played. So pretty much pick a team out of the hat, and they're probably going to win. And the Mariners, even though they're 7 under, but they're 3 back in the division, and we'll talk about the wild card momentarily. But that's also another cheers as I'm drinking water for those watching on YouTube. But I have to say, the AL, as we know with the wild card and even with the divisions, even the Central 2, where the White Sox, although they won 2 out of 3 against the Mets, but the Guardians have kept pace, 4 in a loss, 3.5 back after they swept the Rockies over the weekend. But we would think that the remainder of this season, especially not only with the divisions now, but even more so with the wild card, is going to be all that and then some. And when we look at the wild card, we know right now Texas is tied with Cleveland. They have the tiebreaker edge right now over the Guardians. Blue Jays 1.5. Twins 2 back. Orioles 2 back. Mariners 3 back. And then the Tigers, even though they've lost 5 in a row, are 3.5 back in 8 games under 500. I mean, that's all you need to know about the American League wild card and how bad it is. That here's another indication of how bad the American League is. I'm not going to put them in the mix. I will not. But I have to say, for whatever the reason, the Kansas City Royals are all of a sudden on fire. And they've won 8 in a row. Now, mind you, by them winning 8 in a row, their record is currently 58 and 74. So if you do the math, before this 8-game winning streak, there were 24 games under 500. And do you know that as of right this very second, they are 7.5 back of both Texas and Cleveland. Now, 8 in a loss, and I'm not going to count them. There is no way I'm even going to include them in the American League wildcard race. But I'm sure maybe there's people in Kansas City, hey, can we continue this winning streak? We continue to keep it going here? Considering that I'm sure they still have a lot of games left with Minnesota and Cleveland. Obviously, they just swept the Tigers. I don't know if they have another series against them the remainder of the year. Now, there's no way they're going to be back into it because they still got to overtake Seattle, Baltimore, the Mariners, the Rangers. I mean, it's just too many teams to leapfrog. But, I mean, with the way this year's gone in the American League, would you even be shocked if by Labor Day, 2 weeks from today, the Royals are 4 back? What a disaster. And as far as the divisions we know in the National League, it's the same old, same old. Other than the NL East, of course. Brewers 6 up on the Cubs. Dodgers 9 up on the Padres. And the Dodgers all of a sudden with the sky falling last week because they were not playing well, losing 3 out of 4 to Milwaukee, and they certainly haven't been themselves. And they were, their record was 18-21 heading into their series. Now, mind you, they beat Colorado, swept them, of course. And then they also swept the Pirates on top of that, where Tarek Skubal got his first win. Rough start, gave up 3 in the first, but then ended up striking out 11. And oh, by the way, he's scheduled to pitch next weekend in Detroit, his first game back as a member of the Dodgers. And I believe he's scheduled to pitch on Saturday, if not Saturday, Sunday. We'll talk about that more as we get closer to the end of the week, but he is scheduled to pitch. So that will be very interesting. And not only that, but also a setting which I wonder what kind of response. I'm sure he'll probably get standing ovation. You know he's going to get the tribute video, Jumbotron, that deal. So I would think he'll get a warm welcome back. But once he starts throwing that first pitch, I'm sure the boos will start to kick in. But for the Dodgers, they're fine. And as far as the wild card goes in the National League, Cubs, Phillies, 4 games, 2 games up. In fact, the Phillies have the 5 seed. They're 2 up on the Padres, and the Padres just swept the Twins over the weekend. Arizona 2 back, Marlins 4 back, and then you have the Cardinals 5.5. I won't even go after that. I mean, it's Pirates, Reds, forget it, they're done. But even the Cardinals right now, they are certainly treading water at 500. Marlins are hanging in, as I mentioned, after getting swept by the Phillies. They did sweep the Nationals over the weekend. So they're still there, but I mentioned on Thursday's podcast, to me, it's going to be the 3 teams for the 2 spots. And that's going to be Padres, Phillies, Diamondbacks to see whether or not who's going to advance there into the postseason. And that's what you have with the baseball. I'll get to the schedule in a moment. I want to talk about something that Rob Manfred had made a mention to. And let me just pull up his... Rob Manfred, here we go. So he was asked over the weekend, I believe yesterday, last night during the broadcast, if I'm not mistaken, talked about how we're planning on playing baseball next year. Well, of course he's going to say that. He's always going to say, oh, well, it's looking very dire. Well, I don't know if this is going to happen, blah, blah, blah. But here's one of the things that I don't want to say alarmed, but was pleased to hear him say. And here's his quote. We're meeting regularly, which is good, and that is a plus. Every week we've had days where we met with the players. It's early, but we've got a lot of work to do, and we're at it. Look, our goal is to make a deal. We want to make a deal. We want to play baseball next year. We're planning on playing baseball next year. All right, the one thing I'm going to pick out of that is that they're meeting regularly. And that's a positive, because if it was a situation where, we haven't spoken, or, we met 2 weeks ago, it's been kind of in and out of the clouds, we haven't really discussed things, yada, 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 then you could say, all right, well, what's going on? Mind you, that you still have a few months before the CBA expires, as we all know, it's December 1st. But just knowing that they're speaking regularly is a positive. Now, what they're talking about, how much progress is made, as he said there, they got a lot of work to do. So I'm sure both sides are well far apart. But it's encouraging to hear that they are speaking. And we can only hope that they could stay on that gravy train up until postseason. Once the World Series concludes, you still have free agency, because technically December 1st, you're talking about from the time that the World Series ends in the latter part of October into November up until December 1st. And we understand there are going to be a lot of GMs that are not going to sign players, but that's going to be interesting to see whether or not teams will sign players on the dotted line or just wait for the CBA. Obviously, that's for down the road. But I like what I heard there with Manfred, and we can only hope Bruce Meyer, the head of the players union, is on that same page. That if somebody stuck a microphone in Meyer's face, will he say the same thing? Yeah, we're meeting regularly. Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, but hey, at least the talks are flowing and there's communication back and forth. Or is he going to come out and say, yeah, we communicated, but we don't like what we've heard or what they brought to the table. We do not want, and we're going to stand on that. Manfred's going to paint the rosy coconuts and palm tree picture where Meyer, and this isn't factual, but hopefully Meyer's not picking the cloudy, stormy, it's not looking good route. But again, they're speaking, and that's all we could ask for. And then also, I forgot to mention, I know Andy Pajes, who got hit by a pitch, broke his hand. I don't know how long he's going to be out. I know Bio in the room, our guy from the West Coast, big Dodger fan. I'm sure he could chime in on that. But that's what you have with the baseball. But I want to get to the schedule for the early part of the week. Tonight, Boston at Miami, very good series. Tampa at Detroit, another good series. I know Detroit, even with them being 8 under 500, but they are in the mix there, as we all know. 3.5 back of the wild card. Texas at Chicago, the White Sox. Cleveland at Los Angeles, that's the Angels. Chicago at Arizona. Now, Chicago is 6 games ahead of Arizona. So even if Arizona were to sweep, but still, they got to make sure that they're within that 2-3 game range. They don't want to be falling back any further from this race. Next thing you know, 2 becomes 3, becomes 4, becomes 6 by the time we get to next Monday, and then Arizona's done. So big series there out in the desert. Minnesota at the Athletics, Philly at Seattle, as you know. Pittsburgh at San Diego, they go down the coast. Cincinnati, San Francisco, obviously that's neither here nor there. But those are series that are starting today. As far as picking up from tomorrow, Houston at the Yanks, you know. KC at Toronto. Brewers at the Mets. LA at Atlanta. That's the Dodgers. Good series there, great series. Baltimore at St. Louis. Yeah, and that covers it. Yeah, that's your baseball there for the week. So we will certainly keep an eye on that as we get to Thursday's podcast and see where we stand as we get deeper into the baseball season and get closer to the end of such season. All right, I see some comments there. I'll get to that. J-Rod, I'll get to the, as a matter of fact, I'm going to get to that next, the NFL. So let's transition. Helmet, shoulder pads, NFL as we move it along. And the news just came down a little while ago with the Browns and their starting quarterback. So the head coach, Todd Monken, decided that after the preseason game, I believe it was Saturday afternoon, where the Bills won 27-7 or whatever the score was. And Shedeur Sanders, I believe, had decent numbers. I know my nose is itching. My apologies, people. No, it's not drugs. I'm not high. I'm not, no. For whatever reason, I don't know, maybe it's the air. I don't have the air on. I don't want to interfere with the audio here. But a lot of stuff here with the Browns, as I'll get to. So Deshaun Watson, who in his game on Saturday was 5 for 12, 35 yards, and an interception. And for Shedeur Sanders, let me, just to be fair here, let me pull up his numbers from the game there on Saturday. And one more time, the Browns lost to the Bills Saturday afternoon. It was 31-7. I said 27-7. And Shedeur Sanders was 9 for 11 with a touchdown and an interception. All right, fine, where you already know the numbers for Sanders. Well, today, Monken has named Deshaun Watson the starting quarterback. And mind you, this was after Watson addressing the media, where he came out and heard the boos from the crowd and said that it was personal, that it had nothing to do with his performance. That when he hurt his Achilles on that stadium turf, I knew it was Cleveland Browns, still was a Huntington Bank Field, whatever it is, where when he got hurt and he hurt his Achilles and he was out in 2024, there were fans cheering his injury. Now, Deshaun, we understand that you've had a very checkered past and you've had a very up and down career, more down over the last 5 years, despite the 5-year, $230 million fully guaranteed contract, which I get is a positive. But you're now going into the last year of your deal at $46 million. And after this, who knows if you're going to get a big-time payday. And I'm not talking about 1 year, $25 million, which to us mere mortals, that is a ton of money. But for a guy who made 230, and then you're going to have to take a step back because in the all likelihood that's what it's going to be. But Deshaun Watson, come on, my guy. What are we doing? Whenever you get into a battle with the fans, that is a big, fat L. You can't do that. I understand that's how you feel. I understand you're showing emotion and some truth in your regard, which is a positive. But anytime you go up against the fans, you are not going to win. You're not. And your performance there Saturday was pathetic. 5 of 12 for 35 yards. Sorry. Because if you went 10 for 14, 135 yards and 2 touchdowns, you think they're going to be booing you? They will not. In fact, they want to cheer you to be good, to win. We all know the Cleveland Brown fan base has been out in the desert, wandering for any success. And that goes back to 1964, the last time you had an NFL championship under Jim Brown. And we could go through all the teams after that. From the time I started watching football, Sam Rutigliano to Brian Sipe to Ozzie Newsome to Bernie Kosar to you name it. I mean, this team is starving for a winner. And if you play well and the Browns get off to a good start, then they're going to be ecstatic. You think they want to boo you just to boo you? I mean, he is just so clueless. And I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the one that shouldn't look at it because I'm a fan. And if somebody were to say, talk about the Mets with the thumbs down with Francisco Lindor in his first year when Javi Baez was brought over and they brought the thumbs down deal. And listen, I didn't like that and whatever, but you can't pick a fight with the fans. That is a losing scenario. You can't get out of that. And now you could argue whether or not Watson deserves to be the starter. And there's been people I've already seen, oh my God, I can't believe Monken did this. This is terrible. We know why Deshaun Watson's the starter. He's getting paid $46 million. Maybe Shedeur Sanders deserves to start. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't watched one snap of Cleveland Brown football, especially in the preseason. And I'm sure Sanders is going to get a shot somewhere along the way, I would think. Because if Watson has not even a bad start, but if he's going to be ineffective and not be able to produce, he's going to be out, $46 million or not. And you know what? I get it with the cap. You can't do that because you're going to have to eat up a lot of money. And it's not like baseball where, it's not picking on the Dodgers, but it's not as if they could send Deshaun Watson home like the Dodgers sent Tanner Scott home for the World Series last year at $18 million a year. I understand $18 million is not 46, but the Dodgers had the luxury to do that. In the NFL, because of the cap scenarios, you cannot do that. And I'm sure they would love to cut bait and say, you know what, we got to start over. Shedeur is our guy. Let's see what happens. And away we go. And for those out there criticizing Monken, can you do that? I guess you can. But we know what the bottom line is, the determining factor. He started because he's getting paid $1 zillion. Come on, guys, really? And that's the thing. I don't understand. These studio hosts and guests and the talking heads, I don't know, it's ratings or whatever, but come on, let's be real here. Oh, this is pathetic. How can they put Deshaun Watson? Have you seen what he's done? Whatever. Yeah, we've seen. But we know why he's starting. I mean, come on. Oh, I can't with these guys. I cannot. So anyway, that's number one. Number two, I know that the Browns lost Alex Wright to an Achilles, and they signed Derek Barnett to replace him. So for the Brown defense, which obviously no Myles Garrett, and they do have Jared Verse, but Alex Wright was going to be a guy that was not going to say be anything close or be the pick-me-up from Garrett's departure there in the spring. Oh, excuse me. But for those who are thinking that Verse and Alex Wright was going to be that combo to maybe give some life to that Cleveland Brown line, defensive line. Well, now they took a big blow. And for Barnett, is a guy you know from his days in Philadelphia. So they're going to plug him in there, and you think he's going to be pretty well. But obviously not having Wright there is a significant blow. And the Browns are going to have a long season, as you know, even no matter who's quarterbacking the team. So you could bring back Bernie Kosar, and you're still going to have the same outcome because of how bad the Browns are going to be. And then lastly, with the Browns, I know that Nick Chubb, the former Brown running back, also went to the Texans last year, announced his retirement. And Chubb, who was a very good running back, I believe was All-Pro once, maybe second-team All-Pro, made 4 Pro Bowls, had that bad injury that he suffered in Pittsburgh week 2 a few years back. Wasn't the same player, but he announced his retirement. Good for him. And a couple others. Keenan Allen, 1 year in Indy for $8 million with incentives. So I need a receiver to go with Daniel Jones. So that's a big boost. But Allen, how much is going to get out of him? He's been a very good wide receiver, mainly with the Chargers. Did play a year in Chicago. But Allen, is he long in the tooth? I know he's an upgrade. Certainly a guy that will have a presence there in that locker room for the Colts to try to get that first start. Remember, they started off 7-1 and 8-2 and then fell apart when Daniel Jones got hurt. So who knows what Allen's going to bring to that team. Certainly we'll keep an eye on that. And then J.J. McCarthy, I don't know if it's going to be it for him in Minnesota. I know he played 18 snaps the other day and left banged up. We know that he's had a multitude of injuries coming into his NFL career, as we know from Michigan for J-Rod. But for J.J. McCarthy, listen, it looks like Kyle Murray's probably going to be the starter. And I don't know if he had a bad game. Let me pull up his numbers there. I know he got sacked. He got rushed a few times in the game. And that game was Saturday. And Ravens won 13-3. I mean, that's no big whoop. But for, let's see, box score. For McCarthy, 5 for 10, 81 yards. Listen, again, I'm sure he had a big play there along the way, 81 yards, 10 attempts, but 50% is not good. And for a guy who's going to his third year, I know the first year he was out with that shoulder. Last year, in and out of the lineup. And this year, who knows? So something to keep an eye on there when it comes to the Vikings and their camp. All right, now let me turn my attention. J-Rod, you're going to be ready for this. You're going to have to strap yourself in after me going off on Deshaun Watson. The high tops are getting laced as I squeak on the hardwood for a second to where, Ray, tell him to hurry. It's J-Reel's time. When it comes to the association, you had a couple of players that signed, veterans, that signed with contenders. The first one being Klay Thompson, who got bought out of his contract in Dallas. Remember, he signed that 3-year, $51 million deal. Well, now he gets released. I don't know what the details of his contract is, but he signed a 1-year deal with Miami. Gives him a shot in the arm. I know Pat Riley, open arms, welcomed him in to the Heat culture. And who knows? Now, he's going to have his moments. Klay Thompson will have his moments where he's going to shoot the hell out of the basketball. He's 36 years of age. We know about the wear and tear. We know about the injuries, etc. He's certainly not the same player he once was. But you know what? For 14, 16 minutes coming off the bench, he's going to give you some clutch shooting, and maybe down the stretch of a game where they need a guy that's going to take a three, at least you got a guy that is not afraid to take a shot, who knows his way around winning basketball, and let's see what happens. Now, is he the final piece of the Heat puzzle? No, because it's not as if he has the same defensive capabilities, obviously with the injuries that have hampered him over the last 5-6 years of his career. But Thompson is a guy that I think fits well there. And he's a guy that loves getting on a boat, loves the water. I'm sure he's going to grasp and certainly just go crazy being out in the water there, Biscayne Bay, South Beach, you name it. So kudos to Thompson. So that was one guy that got signed on the dotted line on a contender there in the East. And then in the West, DeMar DeRozan from Sacramento to now Denver. And Denver, they had to trade Peyton Watson there last week. But they signed DeRozan. I'm sure it's probably, I don't know if it's a league minimum. I'm sure it's not a ton of money because the Nuggets are already in the second apron. But we know about DeRozan, mid-range player, good player, Certainly brings a lot of experience. Not a guy that's going to be afraid of the big moment, spotlight, etc. I'm sure he'll fit in nicely with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, etc. So when you have a scenario where both of those guys, DeRozan and Thompson, I think they're in perfect spots. Now, is that going to amount to them meeting up in a final or one of those two teams getting to a final? Probably not. Denver, I think, more has a better shot against to a final than Miami does. But who knows? Injuries in the East. You have a scenario where the Knicks don't fire on all cylinders the way they did last spring en route to a title. The Celtics, who knows what they're going to do here as far as their season goes. The Heat, can they recapture some of that magic from the decade prior in the middle 20 teams? I don't know. But and I'll get to that, Jay, later on with the Pistons there with Jalen Duren. But those are two upgrades for teams that are looking for championship aspirations. So that is pretty much your NBA. Let me just double check that before I move on. NBA. Yeah, those are the only things I could really get into with the NBA. Let me just pull up another graphic here. If there's anything else. NBA. No, I think that's it. So we'll see what happens with those two guys. Yeah, we talked about Harden the other day. I know that the Wolves, Mark Stad, controlling stake, who Mark Lore and A-Rod, if you remember, they were the general partners who had the principal ownership of the team. A-Rod is keeping his portion. Mark Lore sold his portion to Mark Stad, and the deal, $4.5 billion. A-Rod has decided to increase his equity stake. Lore does remain a minority investment or investor in not only the T-Wolves, but also the Minnesota Lynx, who, as we all know, has had a big year. And Lore, who's part of that Wonder Group, I don't know if you've noticed, depending on what city you live, Wonder Group, where they have all those restaurants under one umbrella where you could pretty much your one-stop shopping. Hey, you want Mexican, you want Italian, you want Mediterranean, you want whatever it is, it's all there under that one umbrella. So Stad now is the majority owner, and with A-Rod increasing his equity. So I just thought to throw that out there as we move it along. And we talked about Harden and, yeah, obviously the Lakers stuff. Let's see, DeRozan, what is he getting here? $3.9 million for him and for Thompson. Does not say. But I'm sure it's not for that much because the Heat, as you all know, between Giannis, and I'm sure he's going to get an extension at some point. We know Bam's making big money, and Wiggins making probably $30 million, so that's what you got there with the NBA. Now, as far as the WNBA, this is going to be a two-pronged attack, and I know J-Rod made a mention of this before, and I know you saw over the weekend Natasha Cloud, who is a member of the Chicago Sky, and Cloud, who's been a long time. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and start breaking down her career or any of what the W has gone, as I've talked about weeks ago. I know I should be more locked in and dialed in on this, but I haven't. But I must address this today because of what happened there last night. But I know a couple of nights ago, as I take a sip of water, let me just pull this up to make sure I get this correct with Natasha Cloud. Yeah, I know she called out some fans that threw sex toys onto the court, and we've seen that before. And I mean, come on, people. For those who are doing that, I mean, seriously, I mean, why even let these people into the building? And I guess when was this? Yeah, this was Friday night when Chicago hosted Golden State and were interrupted, multiple sex toys thrown onto the court. Second consecutive night, different WNBA games. I mean, guys, really? Or whomever's throwing them on the court. Okay? That is an embarrassment. Like, if you're going to a WNBA game and you're doing that, find something else to do. Seriously? You're going to spend whatever money on a ticket, whether it's cheap or you got them free, and you're going to do that? I mean, have a little class, have a little dignity. Just goes to show how stupid, and they think they're being cool. Oh, watch this. Come on. Listen, many moons ago, and this is a true story. Many moons ago, out in the bleacher creatures, Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium, where when Jose Canseco and the A's came to town and was manning right field and was dating Madonna at the time, that they actually blew up a sex doll and they threw it in the outfield. I mean, even that was stupid. And I understand that was going back to the late 80s, early 90s, different time, different world we lived in. But even back then, yeah, was it comical at first? But it's stupid. I mean, so come on, really? Is that what you're going to do? You're going to pay your hard-earned money to go to a game and do something like that? I mean, it's atrocious. And then to have that happen there a couple nights ago when Natasha Cloud called out the fans weird. And then you have last night where Chicago, I think they were playing Indiana, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they were. And for Enes Kanter, or Kantner, I said Kantner, it's Kanter. I'm thinking D. Kantner, the former ref, if you remember from many moons ago, NBA. For Enes Kanter to come out, and I understand that he's been a proponent for women's sports. All right, fantastic, great, kudos. But for him to be at the behind the basket, the baseline, and he comes out and he wears a shirt with a definition of a woman. And he is back there. Now, I don't know what he was saying, Jordan, or whatever, but Natasha Cloud actually saw him and started to rush over to him, where Kanter gets up and with his arms wide across, I don't want to say he's, hey, come at me or whatever, but his arms wide across probably to show like, hey, whatever. Well, first off, Kanter's only there as an opportunist. Let's start there. Kanter had a good NBA career. Good offensive player, rebounder, couldn't defend worth a lick. But for him to now all of a sudden come out, and this is the guy who said, a couple weeks ago, he and Royce White, that I'm going to declare for the 2027 WNBA draft. I mean, Enes, stop. If you're trying to make yourself relevant, is it working? I guess it is because you're getting pub, but you're a nobody. Yeah, you played in the league 11 years. And yeah, there's been some outpouring. Even Steven Jackson came out today and he said, Enes Kanter, and I'll get to that in a minute. But for Kanter to come out there and make it about him, to wear the shirt and to put his arms out and do all that, and Natasha Cloud, and I don't know what was said in the postgame, it wasn't addressed and things of that nature, and I'm sure as time goes on, that would be addressed. But come on, my guy, like, what are we doing? Seriously, it's a joke. It's comical. And even Royce White, who the former NBA player, I don't want to listen. He was a guy that was drafted by the Rockets, I believe 2013, and he couldn't make it into the league because he had a fear of flying. I'm not going to knock that. All right, fine. But even he came out and said, well, I'm going to also declare for the Royce White, stop. You played 3 games in the NBA. Nobody needs to hear from you either. And I don't care what he's doing now. Now he's a politician. You want to look him up and see what side of the aisle he's on. And to me, I could care less. You know how I feel when it comes to politics. But nobody needs to hear from Royce White either. Come on. So Enes Kanter, you want to show up in all these games? He had to get a police escort to go into the game last night because people were mocking him. They were saying, get out of here. You're washed. You're this, you're that. Like, why are you showing up in these WNBA games? Why? I mean, please, enough. And listen, we could talk about the whole deal, and I'm going to get to another thing with the WNBA in a minute. We could talk about the whole deal about protecting women's sports and all that. That's fine. But here's the thing that I'm going to look at. I mean, how many trans women players, are there any trans women players in the WNBA? I don't think so. And I don't know if there's rules, whatever. As you know, I'm not privy to all that. But you would think that there's like a zillion trans women people that are trying to get into the WNBA. I mean, seriously? Can we pump the brakes there a little bit on that? Where everybody's thinking, oh, wow, now we're going to be overrun. I mean, make it make sense. Make it make sense. And I get it. Steven Jackson, I have daughters, blah, blah. And that's not it. He has a right to say what he wants, whatever. And, women can't play with the men in the WNBA, which is, or in the NBA, understood. But one more time, I guess I'm either under a rock or I've come from another planet. And I'm not here trying to say that, there should be trans. No, I'm not saying that. But it's almost a thing where so many people are looking at it like, oh, we can't have this, or this can't happen, or whatever. But is there an overwhelming number of people that are just trying to, like, all of a sudden overtake a sport or overtake sports overall? I don't see that. I haven't heard such and such player, oh, wow, there's like 5, 10, 15, 20. There's now all of a sudden an overwhelming crowd of trans women players that want to all of a sudden be in the WNBA. Well, guess what? This is where the WNBA has to nip it in the bud, and it goes back to what I said the other day regarding the commissioner, because there needs to be some semblance of structure to say, hey, this is where we're at right now. And listen, there's going to be that debate back and forth no matter what. And to me, honestly, I could care less. I don't care what's going to happen here. And I'm sure they're not going to just all of a sudden I don't even know, to be honest with you. And, I want to speak in context. I don't want to get crazy. But let's call it like we see it. In reference to Kanter and Royce White. I understand they're mocking by saying we're going to 2027 draft. But why? What good does that do? It just adds more fuel to the fire, adds another log to the, now it's become a thing where it's every other day you see what's happening here. And this is where the league and the commissioner needs to step in and nip it in the bud. Or if Adam Silver has to come in and fight Kathy Engelbert's battles, then so be it. Because now this leads to the next thing. Is all of the publicity, attention, positive or negative, good for the WNBA? Now, you know what they say, even bad news is good publicity, but now it's getting to a point where it's just too much. And it's not even the whole women's rights thing and trans thing. To me, I could care less about that. I mean, come on. Let people be people. Let them be what they want. That's it. End of story. And again, has there been an influx of trans women people that are trying to play in the WNBA? I haven't heard or seen anything like that. I have not. Clue me in. People in the chat room. I don't know. Maybe I'm in a slumber. But I just find it preposterous that former NBA players that you and I could pick out, maybe not Royce White, because again, he was in the league for literally 3 minutes. But Enes Kanter. Why? Why are you trying to attract, and he go, well, I'm here for women's rights and blah, blah, blah. No, you're not. You're there to make a spectacle of yourself, to put yourself as a relevant figure that was a former NBA player into the thrust of what's going on with the WNBA. That's it. End of story. Because you could talk about your feelings and tweet it or whatever, but did you have to show up with the shirt like that in front row of a game? Come on. I'll be curious to see what the comments are. People probably say, Jay Reels, oh my God, have you lost it? No, I haven't lost it, but what I'm saying is factual. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. I don't know. I mean, to me, this is where the commissioner needs to step up and shut it down. And she hasn't done that. Yeah, exactly. Bio. Yeah, the politics. I'll get to that, Jay. I promise. I'll get to that and unpack all the comments later on. But I mean, it's just, what more can you say? All right, now let me get to. Hold on a second. Let me see. I got 1, 2, 3 more things I got to discuss. Yeah, 3 more things I got to discuss, and it's pretty much rapid fire. Be quick. NHL. As I lace up my skates, I know over the weekend in Colorado, I believe they had an alumni game for the Avalanche, maybe celebrating the 25th and, when you think about it, 30th anniversary of their Stanley Cup victories. They won 96 against Florida and 2021 against the Devils. And Joe Sakic, who's now back in the fold as far as the front office, I believe he always has been, but took a step back and now is back. When the question of will Cale Makar sign an extension before the start of the year came up, he said that he was optimistic and even feels that Makar is optimistic. So I guess there have been discussions brought up between the 2-time Norris Trophy winner and one of the arguably top 10 players, or even top 7, 8 players in the sport, will continue his career in the Rocky Mountains. Now, he is going into the last year of his contract. So if you're Joe Sakic in the front office of the Avalanche, you certainly don't want to play around here. And even though what he said seemed positive and seemed like it's going in the right direction, but if you're the Avalanche, are you going to be feeling, once you get closer to camp, and camp is not for another, I believe, 2.5 weeks, because the season starts early. I believe it starts the 28th or 29th, somewhere around there. And if you're the Avalanche, you know that you want to get number 8, again, Cale Makar, signed on the dotted line and not have to go into training camp, or worse, go into the regular season knowing that he's in a walk year. He could have a monster year, maybe another Norris Trophy in tow on the way out of the regular season into the postseason, and who knows how far they go next April, May, and June, to where he may go into the offseason as a free agent. So I bring that up only to keep in mind that although things seem to be, as I like to say, coconuts and palm trees, and the deal will be worked out, and we'll kumbaya, and Makar will be here for another 7-8 years, and away we go. But there could be a little bit of a question mark if things seem to hit a bump in the road, or if it happens to take a detour, or if discussions, negotiations happen to go awry. So keep that in mind as we move along, and that is my hockey point. Next up, as I break out the tennis racket, U.S. Open, which technically starts a week from today, but this week you got a lot of doubles, and in earnest, it starts next week. But the Flushing Meadow, the tournament will start to slowly but surely creep in, where we get one big giant positive, but sadly, one enormous negative. The positive is Carlos Alcaraz, the defending champ who won the U.S. Open last year, will actually be on, whether it's center court Arthur Ashe or Billie Jean King, he's going to play in the U.S. Open. Remember, he's had that wrist injury that's been bothering him. A lot of people even thought as early as a couple of weeks ago that he would not participate, that it looks like he's going to be shut out for the remainder of the Grand Slam season, considering he won the Australian back in January, did not play in the French, did not play in Wimbledon, but now I guess it has been cleared and deemed healthy, ready to go, where he's actually going to be playing doubles matches with none other than Serena Williams. So maybe that's a tune-up for him to know he's going to play with Serena, and we'll see how that risk goes. Now, is it a little dicey to know that he's actually going to start off with doubles, and maybe, not to say he's going to take it easy, I'm sure he's going to play all out. Thankfully, he doesn't have to run around as much as he would if he was playing, obviously, by himself. But Alcaraz, which is fantastic for him, will be playing at Flushing Meadow come next Monday. I don't know who his first match is, but that's a positive for him. Now, the big negative, Jannik Sinner, who had that knee injury, who did not play in Toronto in that Masters 1000 series and did not play the Cincinnati Open either, is not going to participate because of that knee in the U.S. Open. So any chance of seeing an Alcaraz-Sinner final is not going to take place here over the course of the next 3 weeks. We know the tournament begins next week. So that is a big bummer, because a lot of people were hoping that even with the knee injury that Sinner, and I don't even know how that occurred off the top of my head. I don't know if it was training in between, but he didn't play Toronto, which was about 3 weeks ago, and didn't play Cincinnati, which just concluded yesterday. I believe the men's concludes today. The women's, I know Coco Gauff beat Jessica Pegula, and I think the men's is today. And I don't even know who's in the men's final. But just to know that Sinner is not going to participate, that just takes all the starch out of the U.S. Open. And it's going to be pretty similar to what we saw at Wimbledon, because remember, Sinner lost the French there in that second round, and therefore you had a wide open French Open to where Alexander Zverev won, and then Sinner, who played well throughout Wimbledon and beat Zverev in the final, and we were hoping maybe we could get a collision course with those two here over the course of the next 3 weeks or 2 weeks starting next week. That's not going to happen, as you're going to have Sinner on the shelf for this final Grand Slam. And Alcaraz, and I'll talk more about that next week. He's going to be a big story going the next week to see how healthy he is, how he's going to perform here this week with the doubles match with Serena. So we'll talk more about that next week. But I had to bring that up as we're on the cusp of the final Grand Slam in tennis. And then lastly, as I break out the golf clubs, when we talk about not a major, because we all know the majors are done, where we would have been talking about, as a matter of fact, that would have been this past weekend, would have been a situation to where we would have had the PGA this past weekend, or maybe it would have been the weekend prior. Nevertheless, that's not the case, as we know the PGA is now in May. I wish they could move it up to, or back to August, as we know. But when it comes to the LIV Golf League, where their season concluded yesterday, where Jon Rahm won, and I guess was the leader in points for the LIV Golf Tournament, or LIV Golf League, excuse me. And we all know LIV Golf. They play all over the world, nondescript golf courses. And yes, they may have the Bryson DeChambeaus and the Dustin Johnsons and the Sergio Garcias and the Patrick Reeds and the aforementioned Jon Rahm, some of the top players in the sport that, other than the major tournaments, we're not going to see at some of these tournaments that we saw over the weekend, where yesterday Wyndham Clark won. And what was that tournament yesterday? I saw him win. Let's pull that up just so I could. Is this the end of LIV Golf? Is one of the questions that have been brought up here, because they did play their last event yesterday. In fact, let me pull this up. Hold on one second. What was that tournament there yesterday? The BMW Championship. And for Wyndham Clark to win, we all understand Wyndham Clark won. I believe he won the PGA this year, did he not? He did win one of the big majors in golf. But is this the end of LIV? I'm sure you've heard through the grapevine where LIV, they don't know if they want to continue to fund and have lost a ton of money. This is the Saudis that could burn money and not blink an eye. And even they have said, wait a minute. The return investment has not been what we've expected. And here's what happens when you don't play on cherished golf courses. You play all over the world. You're not playing in Augusta. You're not playing in Pebble Beach. You're not playing in Torrey Pines. You're not playing in Shinnecock. You're not playing in St. Andrews. You're not playing in any of these other well-known golf courses, to where, despite the fact that you have top flight former PGA players, and even Jon Rahm says, hey, it's just golf. We'll see what happens. Now, I don't have a crystal ball to tell you whether or not that LIV is done. I would not be surprised. And then you have to wonder whether or not the players, let's say if they signed Jon Rahm to play 4 years and he was going to get $400 million, I'll just use that as a number. I don't know what the exact number is, but it's a lot. Where if he's played 3 years and they're not going to forego the league next year, does he get bought out? Does he not even get anything, a red cent of that $100 million that he was expected to get? Who knows? And I'm sure if that is the case, to where they sign these guys to, let's say, 4-year contracts where they got to fulfill those contracts, then guess what? They're going to play next year. Whether they do not make a penny, whether they lose their shirts, or whether they lose their fortunes. I'm sure they'd rather have them play and earn their money as opposed to, or maybe there's a buyout. I don't know that. I am not privy to what LIV has done when they've brought over the players from the PGA there a few years back. But I will say this. If it's a case where they could buy these players out and not have to worry about having to tack on another year to LIV where they're going to lose more money, because again, that's what it's about here. They'll say goodbye. And these guys will come back to the PGA and be a part of all the tournaments and not just the 4 majors that we know of. And that would be a big boon. And the PGA, at the end of the day, will have won. Because a lot of people thought with the Saudi money that, oh, geez, is this going to be the end? Which it wasn't going to be the end. But when you have Dustin Johnson, Bryson DeChambeau, all those aforementioned, go over and play LIV, that is a huge omission to the PGA Tour. And yes, it's nice to see them in the majors, but it's the BMW Championships. It's the Valero Open. It's the Waste Management Open in Phoenix. It's all those other tournaments that when they start the year in January, going up to the Masters, to the PGA, to the U.S. Open, and to the British Open or the Open Championship, that those guys need to be a part of. And now it could possibly come to fruition where if Liv says, the hell with it, we bought out these guys, that's it. Or if they have to owe them $100 million to those guys, then you know what? There's probably going to be another year. But if they could just fold the league now and not have to worry about having to pay a percentage or even a red cent for that, where, hey, in the contract, if we do happen to close, we don't owe you anything for those last year or two or whatever it is that we decide to close shop, then you know what? Those guys can't argue or bitch and moan that, hey, I owed $100 million when, whether in the fine print or in the contract, said that if we do happen to call it a league, that we don't owe you anything. So we'll have to wait and see. Listen, I would just think, Liv, you gave it a shot. It was maybe not good as well as it lasted, or it wasn't as good as it lasted, but you know what? Count your losses and go on your merry way. That's it. If you could do that, it'll be better for you guys, it'll be better for golf, etc. Because let me ask you something. Have you watched anything when it's come to Live Golf? Have you watched even one hole, let alone a round of Live Golf? If it's me, yours truly, I have not. And to close it out on this note, if they were playing right there outside the courtyard where I could just look down and they're teeing off round one, I draw the blinds. All right, your comments. And there are a lot of them. J-Rod. Is the WNBA even about basketball anymore or just stories, motion, clicks, and views? Well, in the case of Kanter, I mean, he brought it upon himself. And Royce White, you couldn't pick Royce White out of the lineup. All right? Kanter, you can, because you've seen him play. He was on the Celtics. I believe that was the last team he played for in the NBA. But, and that's just the recent stuff. And listen, I get it. It's not for everybody. I mean, the league has been probably as more talented as ever, and that's not a knock on the Cheryl Swoops and the Rebecca Lobos and the Sue Birds, and none whatsoever. Those are all-time great basketball players. Not women's, not men's, basketball players overall. But, yeah, you got a lot of WWE, you got a lot of the Sophie Cunningham, you got her head coach not defending, her current player, the Fever. I know that they are the storm of the league, because of Caitlin Clark. I mean, who knows? But, yeah, Kanter he adds more to the media machine by what he did. And the toys getting thrown on the court. I mean, come on. I mean, that's just a disgrace. But I think it's still about basketball. I mean, Angel Reese with the double-doubles. We know Olivia Miles and what she's done this year. And there's a ton of great stories. But it's the negative ones that are being highlighted. And that's where they need to have a PR person to come in there and nip all this in the bud. End of story. Because if this was the NBA, and as we saw back then, with the dress code and, players are running amok and all, and David Stern, whether you liked it or not, said, this is over. I'm taking this sucker into my own hands, and that's it. Where the WNBA, they haven't. And a lot of that falls on the commissioner. Amber, which calls Mendoza's mentor. Yes, Carl Mendoza ruined the Mets. Not only Yankee fans hate you, so the Mets fans. Yeah. I had nothing against Mendoza, but, Yeah, I don't know. Yankee fans, Ray, if you're in the room, listen, come October, and I don't know if you missed my Yankee segment. I start off with that. Playing well, winning series. And I don't want to hear, Aaron Boone's done a masterful job this year. Aaron Boone, listen, who would have thought He doesn't get graded now. He gets graded in October. News alert. That's why the Yankee fans are hot stuff. Oh, it's the best job he's done. Not you, Ray, but some of the stuff I've read. Oh, you got to give him credit, blah, blah, blah. I ain't buying. And J-Rod's declaring for the WNBA draft. He's got the height. Change his name to Janet. I know you joke, sir. Fishing Angel. Greetings. I don't mind the bad plays in the WNBA, but WWE chalk slams, clothesline, punching, kicking. Yeah, no, I know. I didn't like that with the clothesline with Deshaun A. Carrington on Sophie Cunningham. That was uncalled for. And listen, but they're doing it to themselves. And this is where the leadership has been knocked by Sophie Cunningham, has been knocked by Nafisa Collier, has been knocked by a few other players. It's rudderless. And until you have a David Stern-like, maybe that's too strong, but until you have someone with integrity and someone that's not going to stand for this, that say, hey, this sport is finally getting recognition 25, 28, 30 years later, and now it's going to get ruined by this. This is where you need to step up. End of story. And J-Rod agrees. Yeah. Yeah, I talked about that on my Steelers latest. And I know it was just preseason. Excuse me, guys. I know it was just preseason. But, yeah, Will Howard didn't distinguish himself by any means. Took a step back from the week before. Drew Aller, I like Aller's arm, and I think he has ability. But he didn't do anything for me that was anything to write home about. And their defense got shredded on an opening drive, Geno Smith. Yeah. Yeah, I was not. And again, you're right, Waffle Iron, a.k.a. Tatsuya Mai, Minnesota Fats, a.k.a. Cowboy Bowie Bull, Dad Chips, Everyday Mets, Jonathan Sean Cup. Of course, can't forget Fuqua Johnson. But, yeah. Not a good performance at home. At all. The Fever coach is a joke. Should have been fired last week. Yeah, Stephanie White. I know by her not defending Sophie Cunningham because she coached Carrington at one point. Come on. That wasn't good. And they've had a big year. So. Fever coach is a secret agent. She won't stand up for her own players. Yeah, listen, I can't disagree with you on that, Waffle Iron. Yeah, that was bad. That was bad. I understand she may have coached Carrington at one point, but you know what? She could have been like, hey, that was uncalled for. The league needs to do something about it. What? That's going to be a knock on Carrington? What she did with that? Come on. That was Kevin McHale, Kurt Rambis. Inexcusable. So I agree with you. WNBA stands for woman. Yeah, and they can define what a woman is. I mean, you can't make this. Yeah. Well, no, listen. 100%. It's the WNBA for a reason. I get it. What's this? Can't stupid. Oh, so can't not stupid does, maybe? Oh, you said can't. All right. Can't not stupid phone. I got you, Jay. The whole autocorrect and stuff. What's this? Waffle, you could be right. She's definitely something. Math is not mathing. You're talking about the coach again? Yeah, I know. Stephanie White was wrong big time. I mean, how are you not going to defend your own player on that? Fever coach meant with DJ. Yeah. As you damn near took one of the players' heads. Yeah, no, that was bad. That was bad. And listen, the NBA went through that too, if you recall, with their fighting in the 70s when they were going through their lull. And I'm not trying to compare the WNBA to the NBA, but remember how much fighting in the NBA in the 70s? For those who were around, I remember, I didn't watch it live because it was in the 70s, but I remember Kermit Washington, Rudy Tomjanovich, where he almost killed him. Yeah, that's right. I'm not speaking out of context. He almost killed Rudy Tomjanovich because he literally ran into, not walked into, he ran into a right hand by Kermit Washington. I believe it was in 77. And that may have been a preseason game, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look that up. Kermit Washington, Rudy Tomjanovic punch. May have been. I'm probably wrong with that. No, December 9th. That was regular season. Yeah, Tomjanovic suffered a fractured skull, broken jaw, and spinal fluid leakage, leading to life-threatening injuries and changing NBA discipline forever. And who was the commissioner at that time? None other than the trophy that the championship is named after, Lawrence O'Brien. So, yeah, the NBA went through that too. And I understand that nobody is in control. How long? Wait, hold on. I was looking for something else here with the. I mean, think about it. You had the fights in the NBA Finals, 77. Maurice Lucas and Darryl Dawkins. I believe it was in Game 3. Big fight. No, it was Game 2 in a Spectrum. And the Sixers were up 2-0 in the series, and then after that, the Blazers won the next 4. So, yeah, the NBA went through that too. And I hate to say it, not that there's been a ton of fights, but there's just been a lot of brouhaha. Commissioner. There's been a lot of brouhaha with the WNBA now. So, yeah, that's what I thought. All right. I was just confirming something here. But anyway. But yeah, no, they got to do something. And the commissioner has got to go. Kathy Engelbert, that is. Tigers are done. Threw in the towel. They have a bunch of minor league players coming up this week. I know, losing 5 in a row. But they're still 3.5 back, which is crazy. I mean, not if I'm at the ballpark, I'm running on the field and kicking him in the knee. Oh, no. Wait a minute. And let's just double check. J-Rod. Uh-oh. Niners owner Jed York arrested? Pleaded no contest. On suspicion of engaging in prostitution. Jed York, come on. What are we doing? Steelers at impasse with cornerback Joey Porter. Yeah, because he wants a contract, but he has a bad back. Oh, yeah. Do we even need to bring that up? Maybe I'll talk about that later. Well, I'm going to talk about that in the Steelers tomorrow for sure. Let me see. What was I looking up? Hang on a second. What was that? Oh, Tigers. Yeah, I wanted to see when School. I think he's going to pitch. I think it's Sunday. He's scheduled to pitch. Hang on. All right. Oh, School was scheduled to pitch Friday. Because he pitched Saturday. Right. Scooble, Friday night, series opener in Detroit, Comerica Park. That's why it's not an Apple TV game. Yeah, Red Sox, Yankees, and Seattle, Toronto. All right. Watson named Browns. I know. Watson. Ugh. David Stern's going to sit on his hands until the new CBA signed. In the meantime, the Dodgers going to sign School at 4-Pete. Yep. It's going to be interesting to see what teams do once the World Series is over. And let's say from November 15th to December 1st, will everybody or will anybody sign people on a dotted line? I'd say the majority no, but we shall see. We don't get a salary cap in baseball. I'll never watch baseball again. That's a good one, Jay. I would say, yeah, if there wasn't a salary cap in baseball, I'd be upset, but I'd still watch. But they got to get it right. And no, not for 5 years. They got to get minimum 8 years. This is the first time I'm saying this. The NBA they extended their CBA 11 years. Oh, it was their contracts, I should say. As a matter of fact, when is their CBA up? Football, theirs not until after the 2030 season, and that was right before COVID, or maybe right after COVID. So, yeah, when... Oh, interesting. Same year at the NFL, the CBA for the NBA is 2030. Either side could choose to opt out of the final year by giving notice on October 15, 2028. Ooh. So they could potentially. Now remember, they signed a media rights deal before last year, 11 years, $76 billion. So they don't want to miss out on that money, by the way. But interestingly enough, they need to have MLB, that is. They need to have a long collective bargaining agreement. Not 5 years like they had after 2022, after 2021 season. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Can we go extend that to 8 years at least? Please? I mean, who are we kidding? Had a great time camping with family? Yes. I saw the photos or some of the photos there, Fishing Angel, and it looked like you guys had a great time. I mean, what better than to be with family? Let's be real. He was pulling the race car without saying, I'm pulling the race car of that guy. Are you talking about Kanter? Jay, if you could confirm that. Val, greetings. Of course, bio. Val. Good old Val. Waffle Iron. Asking $75 million for an entrance. No, I did not see that. An entrance from taxpayers. Oh, wait. Is that the $75 million because they want to renovate? Because I did see. Where did I see this? I saw somewhere somebody had come out and said that the Allegiant Stadium, where the Raiders play in Vegas, that they've already wanted to do upgrades. And mind you, that stadium opened in 2020. And here they are. They want to, whatever those upgrades are, I don't know. I've never been. Whatever, that's fine. And that person was saying how, wait a minute, renovations for a stadium that's 6 years old, where MetLife needs it in the worst way, and they've been around 16 years. And I said, you know what, you're right. And what the Jets need to do, and I saw somebody post this, the Aqueduct Racetrack, which I believe closed last fall, and it's right near the airport. It's right by JFK. That needs to be the site of the Jets' new stadium. It's right off the Belt Parkway. I understand it's a nightmare out there. There's always construction. There's always something going on. Anytime you get to JFK, it's murder. But that would be a good spot because you can't build near Citi Field. They're building the soccer stadium for the NYCFC team. There's no other place to put it. I understand it's going to come out of my tax dollars. What a surprise. But if Woody Johnson had an inkling and wants to get an identity to bring a team back to New York, Aqueduct Racetrack, raise it and put a 65,000 seat stadium in there, state of the art, green and white. That's it. You don't have to worry about sharing a building with the Giants. It's not going to look like an air conditioner. End of story. But no, if that's what it was, I think, yeah, I mean, that's a joke. But again, teams that own, owners that own these teams, instead of going to go to the Bellagio, go to the Winds, go to all the big shots in Vegas, have it privately funded. But they won't do that because those guys who have the big money, they don't want to pay, get it from the taxpayers. Meanwhile, they got more money than God. They got more money to burn, these guys that run these hotels in Vegas, but no. They won't ask. Mark Davis, the owner, won't ask them for money, but they'll get it from the people like us, which is, it's beyond disgraceful. Yes, he was, Val, your favorite player. He's on the mend. Yeah, Giants got swept. They sure did in Boston. And the return of Rafael Devers, which I didn't talk about prior to the week, that was my bad. And he hit a home run, downplayed everything, Boston. No surprise. I'm in an appointment, just want to check in. Ray, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, Ray, tell him to hurry. Yeah, J real time. Yes. All right, here we go. J Rod, Pistons. Yeah, I don't understand. And the Pistons did nothing this offseason. Nada. A whole lot of nada. In fact, I know what you call it went to the Spurs. Tobias Harris, did he not? Let me see. Hold on. Pistons roster. A team that won over 60 games last. Did they win 62? Or maybe they were at 60. I forgot. But Duran, Cunningham, Ron Holland, Paul Reed, Asar Thomas. Yeah, I mean, this is the same. Yeah, they got Isaiah Joe from the, which is a good pickup, but is that going to move the needle? I think not. John Collins. Yeah, they have not done a lot, I have to say. Oh, I didn't realize that Luke Walton was on the coaching staff. Good coaching staff. Sidney Lowe, Jared Jack, Vitaly Potapenko, the former Celtic. Not he. Jerome Allen. Yeah, they got to do something. They have to do something. I mean, and Duran, I hope he's been in the gym this offseason. And I'm not talking about lifting weights. I'm talking about fine-tuning his game. Because in the playoffs, rough. Hey, here we go. At this point, I'll take Paul Reed over Jalen Duran as a starter. Of course, I still have the Yorkie here. You stop. Yeah, this thing with Duran, I know. You would have thought they would have signed him. And is he a free agent after this year? I guess he is. Is he not? Jay, you probably know more than I do. Jalen Duran contract. He's restricted, so next year he'll be a free agent. Oof. Get ready for this. And he made an All-NBA team. Was he third team All-NBA? Maybe second. Nah, maybe third. He is eligible for a max extension of up to 5 years and $287 million. He better be in the gym, taking jump hooks, taking mid-range shots. I don't know, whatever he's doing. Look at that. Jalen Ramsey. That's a good sign. Oh, Jay, don't do that. Come on, Jay. I know you say that in kidding. Maybe, who knows? Maybe you'd want to go in there, but don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. I know I see the laugh emoji there. What else we got there is meaning. Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to a sex toy convention and you throw something on there, it's one thing. But I mean, the correlation between that, I mean, it's lowbrow. That's all it is. And listen, I'm not trying to be a morality police or protector for women who use such things, but, you know, and it's just like I know if somebody were to say to you, Jay, that, oh, what are you doing? You're beating yourself off. I mean, not to go off the rails here with this. And yeah, you could laugh at that, but you know. But I know your sense of humor, Jay. So I know you don't mean any like, oh yeah, I would do it. I get it. It's because people don't care. I realize that's how the world's becoming. People don't care. All right, well, you're referring to that fishing angel in what regard? I'm curious. Well, as far as people throwing the toys on the court, I know, and that's the thing. And no, they're doing that to be silly and to be. I mean, that's just come on. What? It's it's just lowbrow. I mean, there's no need. No need to do that. I mentioned the Madonna with the blow-up doll. I mean, it's right at first like, oh wow, but then it's like, oh come on, really? Yes. Jed York, what are you doing? Janet. J-Rod. And possessing criminal tools, 2 days in jail. Yeah, I got to look at that again. Saw that about Enes Kanter, that he's declared for WNBA. Oh, yeah, I mean, come on. Let the woman play in the NBA. This conversation's over. Oh, it'd be over in a day. Yeah. No, I agree. It's not about trans and sports anymore. It's about politics, talking points, clicks, views, period. And the funny thing is that it's brought up, or at least last night was brought up by a guy who, yeah, listen, he has the right to express his opinion and what have you. And listen, I don't have a problem with that. I do not. But to me, I just think that he brought it upon himself as an opportunity to make himself relevant. That's all. Because and I'm going to throw guys that, I'm not even going to throw guys that, oh, I can't stand. Is Grant Hill doing that? Is Tim Duncan at a WNBA game and he's putting out, shirts like that? Who's another guy that you'd come to know and respect? You see Charles Barkley doing that? I mean, and that's why Enes Kanter. I mean, nobody cares what he has to say. And I'm sure even if Barkley, Duncan, and Grant Hill went to a game and they wore that shirt, is anybody going to care? At least you'll see, all right, well, that's how he feels. Great. Fantastic. You think Grant Hill's going to egg on literally a whole team? He exacerbated it. Yeah, exactly. I know, Bob, you're right. There's a few overseas that want to play in the WNBA. Hate me, call me a translator. One is too many. Is too many born males should not be allowed to play one period. There's a few overseas that want to play in the WNBA. I see. Now that's news to me. I never knew that. Oh, I don't know that until now. And maybe I don't know. I got to do some research on that. That's not value a translator. Nobody's saying that. And listen, there's not gonna be any hate from me, J-Rod. You know that. Right, until there's going to be an outcry or whatever where then, then we can discuss. I haven't heard, if you say overseas, that's one thing. I don't know what's going on there. But until, I don't know, there's a 14-year-old somewhere in this country that has transitioned and, yeah, I want to play WNBA, then it's going to spark controversy. But until then, I haven't seen it. I haven't heard it. And if it's just one person, all right, I understand for a lot of people that's one person too many. But it's not like if there's 500 that are right now ready to play in the WNBA right now that were born as a boy and transitioned to a woman. That's my point. And that's the truth. I don't know what else to say. And maybe there are 500. I don't know. And I'm not trying to stick my head in the sand. I don't know because I'm not paying attention to that. But you know what? Here we go. Right now. How many? And just so you know what I wrote or typed, how many trans women athletes in the U.S. want to play in the WNBA? All right, and right. To quote, I know I'm giving them a plug here. To quote Mark Sammons, here I go, Google boy. There is no known number or official count of transgender women athletes who want to play in the WNBA. It's a non-story. Non-story. Like I said, if there was 5, 10, 20, 50, you got a story. And then we could talk about it. But until then, You're wasting your breath. Wasting your breath. And I'm not going to talk about it any further unless it's brought up in the comments, which I'll talk about. But that's why. That's why when Steven Jackson, when he came out today and he said that, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, women can't play in the NBA. Of course, no shit. Not to be blunt. Of course. And I got daughters who play, blah, blah, blah. All right, great. But I'm sure on a high school team, it's not as if there's 5 trans women or trans women teenagers that want to play in a high school league. Come on. Yeah, you thought that was weird? Yeah, Royce White, please. Did anyone see the girl from the stands? Straight tackle. Oh, I think I did see that. Yeah, I see a girl from the stands. I thought I saw that on from the stands. I think even my wife showed me that from the stands. Tackle. 16-year-old girl named Addison Honeycutt ran from the stands onto a Tennessee football field, tackled a 13-year-old player. Charged after she rushed the field. You're right, you couldn't do that. Is this it right here? Yep, there it is. But she and her family say it doesn't show the full story. Addison says she had been watching her younger brother get targeted on the field and she felt needed to protect him. Check that out. All right. You go. She admits she shouldn't have run onto the field. Now she's facing assault and disorderly conduct charges. Addison and her mother share their side of what happened. The father of the 13-year-old player Addison tackled also responded publicly. In a Facebook post, he said his son did not deserve what happened and asked people to remember there is a real child and family behind the viral video. Now, all right, so this 16-year-old girl who was protecting her brother felt like he was getting targeted on the field. Now, is there video of him getting targeted? Like they're taking shots at him, whatever, so on and so forth. We don't know that unless somebody comes up with a video. But, hey, listen, she's getting charged. As she should. You can't come in from the stands and just all of a sudden tackle somebody out of nowhere. Yeah. Can't do that. Even if she was protecting her brother. And kudos to her for doing that, but she could have waited till after the game and be like, hey, I want to talk to you. That would have been something. But, you know, we'll see what happens. All comes down to respect. That's it. That's it. And I love what you said the other day, Fishing Angel, when we did our little town hall and what you said to Val. Hey, I got a heart. I got me. I was like, I mean, not that I was going to be all like sensitive and crying and stuff, but I was like, oh, that was nice. Because yes, we need that. We need more love. We need more respect toward one another, not stupidity. She's getting charged for, rightfully so. Went back to school today. What's today? 24th? It's about right. I know my grandson actually started school 2 weeks ago today, which I thought was really early. 11th grade now. Damn, where's the time go? He's going, oh, please. It's way too fast. It's way, way, way too fast. Well, good for him. 11th grade. Geez, me in 11th grade? Got to go back to way too long ago. Although only preseason, Ty Simpson, Rams first game, 25-20. That's a game. I cannot say Will Howard or Drew Aller had a game like that on Friday night. J-Rod, does he get the nod over Stafford? That's a good one. But you know what? They may have found their quarterback of the future. May have. Which is a lot more than what the Steelers can say right now. 101. Man. Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was looking at Moreno Valley because, I have a good friend of mine that's out there. Shout out to Victor Carrillo. Yeah, here are the temperatures. 100 today, 100 tomorrow, 102 Wednesday, 102 Thursday, 98, 97, 92. I mean, man, that is, sign up for that right now. Which I actually thought about this yesterday. I hate to say this, not to pivot just for a quick second. I kind of wonder, now that we're in late August, and we may have one more stretch, but I kind of wonder if the 90-degree days are gone for us in the Northeast. Here are your temperatures in New York for those who care. Ready for this? Now, I'm not crying that it's cold. I love the weather, but I want another heat wave. Can we get another 94, 95 before it's all said and done? I think those days are gone. 80, 78, 81, 80, 82, 78, 84, 77, 75 next Wednesday. I think the days of 80 degrees, the days of 90 degrees, I think are gone. So once you get to September, you rarely see 90-degree days in September, which I'll start shedding tears at that time. Let's see. Yeah, so there you have it. Yes. Good for you, Bio. Oh, man, I would love to get up early and go run in that weather. Get up 6 in the morning first thing. Bio, finally cooling down. Wow, that's nice, though. Uncomfortable. What is happening? Greetings. Welcome. Reese can't hit a wide open layup to win a game. Oh, Angel Reese. Val B. Yep. Mark Salmons. I don't know. We haven't seen him in a while. Valkyries. That's a big game. Isn't Golden State in second place? Standings. Golden State is in second place. 5 games ahead. Oh, the Lynx, yeah. So they're going to win the division. And there's what? It's only like a handful of games left, right? 6 games? Yeah, it's... Where is Mark Salmons? Damn, all your quarterbacks are in some way a rival of mine. Penn State, Ohio State. I know. Yeah. Mason Rudolph's Oklahoma State, so you don't have to worry about that. But, yep. You hit it right in the head, J-Rod. That is right on the nose. 2004. 2004, I was what? 35? Jeez. Yes, they do. No, I know. And then J-Rod, I feel, if you feel old, how do you think I feel? As I just said, 35 in 2004. 85 is back. I know you're excited about that. Val. Oh, Watson you're referring to. Hold on. So you're talking about, as I go back to your comment. Yeah, Watson. Hold on there. Oh, let's be real. Who's pulling the race card without pulling the race card? Watson. Yeah, Watson. Yeah, here's the problem I have with Watson. He's a guy that obviously, whether he wasn't criminally charged, but we all know the whole situation regarding, which is separate from the fans and all that. But here's the thing. He's not the most stand-up guy in the world. And for you to come out and say that, oh, it was personal, oh, that it wasn't about my play, blah, blah, blah. Like I said before, if he put up good numbers and got into the end zone a couple times, you think they're going to boo him? I mean, stop. Deshaun Watson. And listen, I don't know. I don't follow him on social media, but I've seen some of his escapades that he's been married over the last few years, and kudos to him. But, yeah, he goes on these lavish vacations, and seems like that he and his wife are just splurging, spending. You better save some of that money, my guy, because after this year, I'm sure you'll probably be in the league as a backup or maybe as a starter, depending on how he plays. But you better save some of that money because divorce is going to be right around the corner. And I'm not trying to wish him any ill will, but that's just a fact when it comes to not just NFL players, but any athlete. If you're going to continue to spend like that, thinking that you got this money forever, and then realizing that, yo, hon, we can't go to the Maldives or to Bora Bora. Maybe we could go to the Bahamas. He's like, Bahamas? I ain't trying to hear that. And then next thing you know, over and out. I was disappointed that when we went. Oh, I know. That would have been great. Yeah, no, that was awesome that you came out for those couple of minutes. But yeah, I would have, that would have been fun. Just to know you guys are out there in nature, having a fun time, good time. And yeah, no, that sucked that you guys weren't able to be a part of it. But listen, obviously not your fault. Yeah, my nose is just, it's on fire. Yes, Val. I know your favorite players. Matt Chapman, George Kittle, Will Smith, San Jose Sharks. We found baby rabbits in the yard. I asked my husband if I could keep one. He said no. Oh, J-Rod, couldn't keep one. I agree with you 100%. The NBA players trying to get their podcast is blowing up. Oh. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I listen. It's going to. Uh-oh, you gonna send me? Damn it, my nose. It's got to be the air. I know I don't have the air on. It's stuffy. I'm a little stuffy. I can even feel it in my throat. What is this? I'll send you the video. Right. No, exactly. And that's my point, J-Rod. It has nothing to do with it. To me, it's just a fact. Until they're going to be, oh, wow, there's like 10, 20, or a significant number, that then we could talk. But until then, but no, send that to me. I'll be curious. Dan Orlovsky. Oh, is that right? Good. Trade for Stetson Bennett. Haven't played week 1 against Pittsburgh. And if they can't beat Stetson Bennett at home against the Falcons, then they're going to have a lost season. I get that the girl was standing up for her brother, but she did nothing during the confrontation. Did nothing during, well, other than the tackle, you mean? Yeah, she could have done that. I mean, I could see if she went up to her or went up to him, like ran onto the field and pointed like, yo, you keep this up, blah, 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 blah. Now, even then she shouldn't have done that to get onto the field like that. But, I mean, you do like the fact that she was sticking up for her brother, but still, yeah, that was not the way to do it. And now she's facing charges, which, yeah. I can't fault the person who got hit and their family is going to say, no, we're going to press charges. But you think they do it? The Rams are not scared to trade. That's a damn shame. Yeah, they definitely are not. Uh-oh. Jay Rose, do you see Dodger fans gave Carlton Costanza? Oh, is that right? I did not see that. I did not. See, that's a good thing. And I like to see that. And I know over the years, if you remember a few years ago when Trey Turner signed with the Phillies that first year and he was awful, and I think it was a game in August where he played a doubleheader, if I'm not mistaken. In the first game, he was awful. In the second game, they encouraged him. They tried to cheer him on. That's what you want to see. You don't want to see the home crowd booing players. And that's one thing. I've never booed my own players. I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not going to boo first inning. Francisco Lindor strikes out, hits a double play. Boo. And then what? In the 7th inning, he hits a go-ahead home run. Then I'm going to cheer? Nonsense. But no, I didn't see that. No, good for him. He's had a rough year. As you know, I know, etc. You can see him pulling the trigger on Bennett. Let's see. Bennett. I'd probably say draft pick. Yep. Just like Bio said. I agree with that. Can't sit at a point from the microphone and say stuff like that. Yeah, you can't. And even if the media asks, oh, I'm sure you heard the booze raining down. How does that make you feel? He could have said, next question, no comment, which I understand you could say, oh, there's a lot of meaning to those 2 words that he said. Or just take the high road. Be like, hey, they paid their money. They want to boo. That's fine. What would I do in the game? 5 for 12, 35 yards, interception. Yeah, it was bad. Next. That's it. That's all. Over. Jay, what would you do? If Kornai Singer can't start, Kornai Singer can't close, should you DFA him or try to trade him next year? He's going into a last year of a contract. I wouldn't be surprised if they start him. I think they'll keep him. I know the other day, I think he blew a game. Which game was that? Was that the game in the middle series? The game last week. Padres. I think one of those games. I think it was the Friday night. Oh, not Friday night. The Tuesday night game. He gave up a run. Yeah, I hate to say this. If you could trade him, trade him. If not, I mean, Devin Williams is your closer, right? He's got 2 more years. I put him as an 8th inning guy. I would try to trade him. Or come into camp next year, win a job as a starter. If not, then cut him loose. Why not? He's getting $15 million a year. It's not as if he's getting paid $40. So the confrontation took place at the 10. Yeah, I did see. It looked like it was at the 10. Go wait until the players got back. Yes, I got you now. Yeah, I got you, Jay. Yeah, that was, you shouldn't have done that. Waffle Iron, I see you. Yes, Fishing Angel, have a great day too. Did you change your thing? Oh, I see you have the dog there. Oh. Yeah, so you changed your avatar, so I had to acknowledge that. Yes, I will. Let her know. Fishing Angel, thank you. And J-Rod too. And everybody else. Bio, Val, my diehards. Waffle Iron, which I'll get your comment now. My thoughts on Pat McAfee taking over Monday Night NFL show. Just call it Monday Night McAfee. And funny enough, we talked about this last week. Well, to answer your question, I don't watch those shows anymore, those pre-games and all that, so I'm not missing out on anything. But they're going to get their money's worth. $60 million a year. If they could put Pat McAfee on the U.S. Open coverage, and I think it's on ESPN, is it not? Let me see. U.S. Open TV coverage is on. Used to be CBS. Now it froze. What happened? Yeah, ESPN, ESPN2. Men's final on ABC. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he does U.S. Open. You mean to tell me Pat McAfee, he knows who Iga Swiatek is? Or Andrei Rublev? Or Rafael Hodar? 3 words. I think not. Because he's not a kook. Pay me $60 million. You got a kook. Yeah, no, that's what they're doing. They're just, it's terrible. He's taking over the Monday night show. They're trying to squeeze out every last drop of that lemon or orange, whatever fruit you want to use. And that's it. Listen, you know how I feel about McAfee. He does nothing for me. He brings nothing to the table. I want some credibility. Not that he's not credible, but Come on. Is he going to come out here? Maybe he did talk about Enes Kanter today. I don't know. And to me, you have to talk about that today. I mean, 100%. That happened last night. And then with the thing that happened 2 nights ago with Natasha Cloud, I mean, that has to be brought up. If you're doing a sports show, and that's the thing. How many other, and again, I don't want to make it about me and other thing, but how many other sports shows? First off, there's not many that are doing all sports like I am. But even the basketball podcast, are they talking about Enes Kanter today? Did they even talk about him today on First Take, which obviously I don't watch? Seahawks have, yes, I know, crushing. Jay, go sports, man. Thank you as always. You already know. And bio, yeah. I guess Terry and Arnold, I don't know what's happening the latest with him. And I have not watched any of the Hard Knocks. So I can only imagine whatever it is that they're recording. I'm sure that they're not happy with how things have come about there when it comes to their team. But they'll be fine for opening night, though. At least I think so. Let me see. What's this, Shador? I'm on Twitter now. Uh-oh. Yeah, I'm looking at DeMar Hamlin after he picked off Shador Sanders. Again, starting Watson over Shador is the most Cleveland Browns things ever, which kind of right about that. At this point, you all just want to lose. Watson is washed. He may be washed, but again, 46 million reasons why he's starting. Anyway. What else do I have? Anything else, people? Anything else going on? Let me just see what I got before I wrap up. Yeah, I'll talk about that later, the Joey Porter Jr. thing on the Steeler latest. Yeah, that'll do it, my good people. All right. Let's zero in. Take this out here real quick. Anybody else have comments, questions, whatever? I will answer them after my conclusion. That'll do it, my good people. Another episode in the books. As always, thank you so much for stopping by, carving out precious time out of your day to listen to what it is I have to say about what goes on in the world of sports. And if you haven't done so, please hit that subscribe button when it comes to the YouTube channel at JReels or the JReels Sports Network to increase the visibility of this channel with all the others that are out there. This is true, passionate, 100% no-frill sports talk that is unedited, uninterrupted, unapologetic, without the clickbait, ragebait fluff that you may see on other channels out there. You're not going to get that here. You're going to get true passionate sports talk. And also, if you like to listen to your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, throw me a few stars, write a review. I greatly appreciate it. And also, if you want to hit me up with any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can do so at the following: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the JReels Podcast, or just JReels on Instagram. Twitter, JReels1, just the number. Twitch, JReels1, just the number. Or the old-fashioned way, the JReels Podcast at gmail.com. I'll be more than happy to follow up with you guys and gals, because whether you do or do not know, this is what I love to do, people. In the blood, in the DNA, talking sports is birth. Because one more time, where else are you going to get all that you heard on this podcast? From Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, WNBA, golf, tennis, hockey. Where else? In a little bit over an hour, your one-stop shopping for all that has to do with sports? I'm listening. Still listening. I got you covered, people. Because as long as I sit in front of this microphone and camera, I see you, Bio. I promise I'll deliver nothing but passion, fire, energy, fury, my thoughts, opinions, critiques, praise, analysis, feelings on anything and everything that happens on the world of the diamond, ice, gridiron, hardwood, golf course, racetrack, tennis court, boxing ring, octagon, you name it. From my lips to your ears, from my heart to your soul, from where I am to wherever you are, the J Reels podcast always comes correct, direct, and in full effect. From the South Bronx to South Beach to South Central to South Pacific and all points beyond, peace, love, and God bless everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. I'll see you Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern time for the next live stream. Looking forward to that. And until next time on the J Reels podcast, on the flip, baby. And yes, thank you for bringing this up, Bio. Terrible job on my part. I would have been remiss by not mentioning today, 8/24, the birthday of one Kobe Bean Bryant, who today would have turned 48, I believe. Was he not born in 1978? Let's just double check that. His birthday was yesterday, right? But 8/24. Yes, he would have turned 48 yesterday. Because whenever I see 8/24, I just think, obviously the two numbers, but I think that's his birthday was the 23rd. Yes, and we all know how we feel about Kobe Bryant. Still can't believe he's not with us anymore. There's three people. Can I say this in closing? And this has something to do with sports. There's three people to this day, since they passed, that it's hard to fathom that they're not here. And even more so, I don't even want to admit that they have dearly departed. Three people: Kobe, Prince, Anthony Bourdain. Those are the three I wish we could get back. Can we get those back somehow, some way? Please? And listen, I'm a Celtic fan. But, that's why I got to cherish, enjoy every second of every moment of your life. Because we just do not know when it's going to all come to an end. And I guess with that being said, people, Bio, go sports. Have a great day. Val, whoever else is left on, I appreciate you all. You know that. And until Wednesday, on the flip.